welcome to the podcast.
Adam, thank you very much.
Of course. So I just want to take a moment and say thank you for coming on. For anyone listening, we've met through one of your businesses, Summer Club. I've been working with you over the summer. And as I began to get to know you, I was like, oh, this guy's interesting. Cool. All right. We had a couple of conversations.
I have a past.
Yeah, it's great. And I was like, cool. We had a few conversations. I thought to myself, hey, yeah, let's do this. So I'm really excited to, dig into your expertise in the world. You've got a number of very interesting skill sets and I'm sure some amazing stories. So yeah,
fortunately and unfortunately,
it's good. It's good. And you've got a great energy and like demeanor. And I've noticed that you're very calm and present and just focused.
I was not always like that.
I can imagine generally the ones that weren't.
Yeah.
It's work.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So, look, just to get started, who's Anthony Bourdain to you?
So I was fortunate enough to cook for him once. But he, looking at what he did as a chef and then went into this celebrity world, it was kind of like, I went to culinary school when I was younger, before finance, and there was no money in it. It was almost like poker players before Poker Stars came out, and it was like, I loved playing poker, I loved cooking, but you can't do anything really with it. And then Anthony Bourdain kind of really shaped and changed the way chefs were looked at. Mm-hmm. He was this, fanatical guy that lived life, the way he wanted to. And he became a celebrity because of it. And he's now touring the world, kind of showing off cuisines. But he had this whole history of cooking prior to that, not making much money in the beginning. And then obviously going through the ranks of, becoming a well-known chef. And he figured out the business side of it and opened up several restaurants. So while I'm not a party animal like he was, it showed me that you can make a career out of being a chef. So he kind of taught a lot of people that were concerned with making money, that you could actually do something in the culinary world and make money. So that was cool. So it was somebody that I always looked up to.
Great.
For that.
Great. So how did you cook for him?
So at the time I had a restaurant in the Hamptons called Georgica. There's another very famous chef, Eric Ripert, who, at the time I had a girlfriend who was, teaching his son at an elementary school. And, we met through me going to his restaurant, Ripert and Daniel here in New York City. And we kind of became friendly. And then we were invited to his house one day, and it was Labor Day weekend. And at the midway point of being there, Chef Daniel Boulud came walking through the door, and it was wild. And I'm like, I don't get it, but okay. And Eric turned to me and said, we need a reservation for dinner this weekend, tonight. It was a Saturday, Labor Day. The Hamptons Labor Day is
crazy.
Insanity. We were sold out at Georgica, and he said, it's 10 of us. It's 2:00 in the afternoon, Saturday, 6 hours away from them needing a 10 top. And knowing that Labor Day in the Hamptons is the weekend that you clean out your freezer of everything, right? Most places have like a prefix and get in them, get them out, and I wouldn't let that happen to these guys. So I agreed to the reservation, and I ran out of his house and I ran to Cinderella, which is like the high-end market. And I literally spent, I think, $2,000 on ingredients. And I got to the restaurant. It was like 4:00 in the afternoon. Now 4 hours from the reservation. And we were packed. We probably had 500 covers that night.
Wow.
And I told my team who was coming. and we set up a table for them. And I said, I'm not helping in any other aspect tonight. I'm only doing this table. And in walks Eric and his wife, Danielle and I believe it was his girlfriend at the time, Eric and Anthony and his girlfriend at the time, and a few other of their friends. And I just went to town and I made just, the best of the best of what I could get out. And they ended up staying the entire night. And I went out for each dish, and they were just so nice and accommodating of like me being a fan.
Yeah.
And, the pictures taking and, just allowing me to kind of explain the food the way they would probably do it at their high-end restaurants, whereas Georgica was a very nightlife driven, but great food. But it was probably over the top for what Georgica was, the dishes that I was sending out. And we just spent the whole night together, and it was, they got wasted and stayed there until like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and we had a night of it.
Nice. What are those moments like in your career? How do you process them?
So, there's a lot of things that monetarily don't work out. And then there's things that shape who you are and kind of put notches on your belt. And that was one of those times where it was like, they didn't pay for their meal. I spent $2,000, but I get to tell this story now. And so those things, and there's a lot of them in my life, those things are just as important as monetarily making something happen. Whereas this is a life moment that kind of, to cook for 3 gods of the culinary world is not something everybody gets to do. So it definitely helps give you confidence. It helps carry your life stories. It helps get you to other places. Whereas if you didn't have any stories to tell, you may not climb a ladder. So it definitely helps you in more ways than just yourself boosting it, being able to tell and talk about it and have pictures of it. It kind of proves who you are a little bit.
Yeah. Good for the brand.
Yeah.
Bad for the back pocket, good for the brand.
Got it.
Nice. So if you were to have a situation like that happen again, would you do exactly what you did last time?
I wouldn't change a thing.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, there's one.
Yeah.
There's one change.
Go on.
We had a special. It was so in the prefix, right, of Georgica that night. It was 3 appetizers, 3 on whatever. Oddly, Daniel Boulud ordered something additional. And in my first course that I sent out, I used a sauce that was from that prefix. And when he got that second dish that he ordered off the menu for some odd reason, that sauce was used again. And he called me out on it. And it was I turned so bright red, and it was just like, I just want to say you weren't supposed to order off the menu, but it was my one thing that I always cringe about, because it's not something that you should repeat in a menu that you're serving to these gods. It's sauces, the same sauce, 2 dishes in a row. So that was the one thing I'd change.
Was he stirring you up, or was it like serious?
He was a little saucy, so he was definitely he was joking more about it, but I didn't take it as a joke. Yeah. The words hold weight, don't they? Oh yeah.
Even if they're joking.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Fair enough. Look, I do want to go back a bit higher on your history, because the context of your early years and how you kind of develop in the world are really important to understand how you make decisions now. So what are the contexts of your early years that allow us to understand you as a human?
So I've been, you can call it an entrepreneur or, somebody who loves making money since I'm a kid, way younger than you're supposed to probably love money.
Run me through that. What's the earliest?
My parents took us to Atlantic City when we were kids all the time. They're gamblers, and so am I. And, so seeing, I guess, coins falling out of a slot machine, which it used to be coins falling out of slot machines and not little tickets that now print out. And I think it kind of just made me infatuated with money. But, shoveling driveways in the winters here in New York. And I used to sell for when eBay came out, right? I was one of the first ones on eBay, and no matter what it was, if it was something popular at the time and I was able to get a lot of, I'm selling it on eBay. Like when Obama became president, and this is much older, I was already in finance. Like I was already doing really well for myself, but it was the first black president, and it was all over the newspaper. And I literally ran thinking that I could sell these newspapers because the newspapers were a big thing that people would collect. And I went out like 2:00 in the morning when newspapers were being delivered, and I bought every single newspaper, hundreds and hundreds of newspapers. Within 36 hours, I made around $70,000.
Wait, what?
And if you look at my eBay, I mean, you can't see it now, but they were selling between $150 and $300 a paper. And I've done this now numerous times. I haven't done something like that in a long time. But you have to recognize.
Wow.
You have to recognize things that nobody else recognizes. And it's just when Ticketmaster was, which is, if you're not familiar with it, was where you would buy your concert tickets, and there was no scalping rules on eBay. So I was out there.
Physical tickets, you pick them up.
Tickets. I would go online. I would wait for, Janet Jackson to go on sale and NSYNC to go on sale. And I would buy as many as I possibly could, throw them on eBay, and I was a hustler, and I still, to this day, like I will hustle. I don't care how much money I make. I remember where I came from, and I didn't grow up poor by any means, but I remember that I love money and I love success. And Michael Jackson was coming out, his last tour ever, and it was the Jackson 5. It was not even a tour. It was 2 days only. It was a benefit concert. Every single celebrity you could possibly think of was singing with him, including his family. It was the last time the Jackson 5 actually performed as the Jackson 5. It was at Madison Square Garden. It was September 8th and September 10th.
My birthday.
Oh, really?
Right, yeah.
Of 9/11 year.
Yeah.
And so it's 3 days before. It was 3 days before.
Oh, shit.
Tickets were going on sale.
Yeah.
And we knew that it was going to be a super high price, but I had everyone in my family, because this was going to be it, this is where I was going to make serious money,
Damn, you bought your benefit concert. Goddamn.
So I had probably 3 to 5 people in my family, girlfriend at the time, online. And the internet was out, just so that you guys know. But the internet was out, buying tickets online existed, but for the most part, people still went to the store, Sam Goody or whatever the record store was, and Ticketmaster had their own like little cash machine that they would print out at. My brother, my sister, my father, my mother, my girlfriend were all
hustlers
at a different location buying them for me.
Yeah,
I gave them money, credit cards, whatever, and I'm on Ticketmaster's website. And bang, 9 o'clock goes off. They're all on speaker phones, and we can get whatever you want. They have everything, because usually tickets would sell out in 30 seconds. They would just say best available. And that was my rule. Just take whatever they tell you the best available is. Sure enough, I'm online. I pull up row 2, seat 1112, 5,000 a ticket. Bang, I buy them. I do it again, thinking that it's sold out. Row 4, seat 6, 7, 8, 9. Bang, 20 grand. Take it. They're online and they are doing the same thing and they're buying. And Seth, it's not selling out. I'm like, just keep buying them.
Oh, God.
So that was the end of my ticket career. You're immediately realizing I within 30 seconds of that, now all this is happening within 2 minutes, within 3 and 4 minutes where you can now search to see what's out there. Even the $400 to $500 nosebleed seats are not selling. And I knew I had everyone on the phone. I go, stop buying now. And I knew that I screwed up. No, that's the minute I knew I screwed up. And I threw them on eBay immediately. And I lost $30,000, $40,000 in a matter of 5 days.
Wow.
Seeing that I couldn't move them. That being said, my whole family came to Michael Jackson. Yeah. Everyone went to go see it. It was the best concert we've ever seen in our entire living lives. But yeah, so
that was it. That was the end of that one.
That was it. But so I was into just like, it's the gamble, it's the sweat, it's the thrill, all or nothing for me. And it propelled me. I think because I take chances and risks, it's who I am today. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely not, you need a stomach for it.
So, I wonder if there's some like weird karma thing because it was a benefit concert.
You know what? I don't remember what the benefit was for.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. But you're right.
Someone's just like, nope.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Yep. It has to be.
That's so funny. Yeah. So what's your relationship with your family? Like, how did you grow up? What happened?
We have always been a super, super close, tight-knit family. We're all about family. So, almost to the point where it's fault-like, really? Where, we have to be with each other for birthdays and, we have to buy each other gifts. And, my mom lives in Florida now. My brother lives in Florida. My dad is back and forth from Florida to New York. We make it a point that Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthdays, no matter what, we're together. So if we're all flying to one place or flying to another, actually my mom's birthday is coming up August 27th. So the whole family's flying up and we'll spend the birthday with my mom. And, it's, you don't have that many of them compared to other things that in the world. It's to us, it's the most important. And everyone's getting older and older and older. And, you don't know
how long you've got left.
You don't know. So for us, it's, family's everything for sure. My parents were divorced when I was 8.
Yeah, same.
But it actually, I wouldn't change anything. My mom married an amazing guy who's no longer here. He passed a couple of years ago, but he really helped shape us as children as well. He was in our lives from the time we were 9, from the time I was 9 or 10 until just a couple of years ago. They got married. My father met an amazing lady who he's married to, and they were much happier people. And, it was rough for a couple of years, but for the most part, it became really nice. And now we all go out together and everyone's friends. And, it's almost like we got to make our family bigger. And if they're happier, if people are happier because of that, it's great.
What's your thoughts around having a solid family basis to then allow you to take risks in business and life?
Look, I mean, you need support, right? I'm sure we'll get back into my finance career. I didn't need anybody's help when I was in finance. You don't rely on anybody. I worked at Goldman Sachs. It's a very prestigious, nice firm. I owe them a lot of my number head knowledge to that. I give them praise. I would never change a thing. I absolutely loved it. My dream was not that though. It was not in finance and even making good money. It was, nice. And New York City is a very expensive place to live,
Yeah,
but
you're telling me.
it was not my thing.
Yeah.
And being an entrepreneur, making my own schedule, which when you own something, you think like, oh, I make my own schedule.
You're doing everything.
It's called 24 hours a day is your schedule. And every problem and headache is yours. Whereas Goldman Sachs, and I worked on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, you get there at 9 and you leave at 4:30 Monday through Friday.
That's not what I'm hearing from finance guys.
Two different things. Well, not two
investment
different things.
bankers.
iBankers are crushed.
Okay.
And that's not for me.
Do they make more money? Or is it just a shittier
I think it's just
job?
a shittier job.
Okay.
But sure. I mean, both
Can
could
do
make
really well.
a lot of money. And the job that I had at the time doesn't exist anymore.
What was it?
It's phased out. So I was a part of the specialist firm, which was a division called Spear Leeds Kellogg. And it's market making. And basically computers took over that world.
Yeah.
So, the New York Stock Exchange, where it used to be this robust, insane, amazing place to work with thousands of lunatics
Yelling at everyone.
Yelling
It's exactly what you would think on the.
It's so
on like
much
a movie?
more than that.
Oh wow!
And the movies, there's never been a movie that has been made that actually showcases the insanity. I don't care what movie. The stories that I have from the New York Stock Exchange far surpass any movie that there's ever been created. And I don't know why somebody has not made one. I've actually attempted to write a lot of stories down in the hopes that one day when I'm older, I can get into that world. But I mean, if people heard these stories, I don't think they would have ever put their money into the market.
What's an example?
You're talking about, so the people that worked at the New York Stock Exchange, they almost, a lot of them were uneducated. A lot of them were brought in from their families who have been there for 100 years. A lot of them, you need this almost like this spunky attitude in order to work in a place like that. And every breed was there. And my second or third day on the job, Prince Andrew's. So Prince Andrew came in, and a specialist company would have a set of stocks that they would be assigned. And a specialist firm was chosen by these companies that would IPO or come out, and you would, as the company, you would have them, and you would be the market maker. And basically every single share that would trade hands would go through your fingertips, and you would assign it a price. So when you see CNBC and the ticker is going across, and you see Apple up $1.02, somebody just priced that. It wasn't automatically done by a computer. It was a man or a woman doing that. And that was my job. And Prince Andrew somebody came to ring the bell every day, and it was usually a celebrity or an owner of a company. And Prince Andrew comes walking to the booth that we were at with a whole bunch of security, and somebody ducks behind me and screams, "Britt, get the hell out of here." And they look at me, and the prince is staring me dead in the face like I just screamed at him to get out of the New York Stock Exchange. And I'm beat red. And at the same time, they used to what's called powder people's shoes. And this is literally just one tiny, probably one of the lesser of the stories, but they would put powder on top of baby powder on top of your shoe, so that when you walk, you would have this cloud of baby powder following you around. And so they were all staring at me. Somebody came, powdered the prince's shoe, and as he's walking, he's now kicking powder in the air, and he has no idea what's going on. And this is
But just to fuck with him,
just to screw with him. and people, they're looking at me and they think I'm doing the one, and it's my third day and I'm ready to cry. Like I'm just this good kid, trying to follow rules.
This was your villain arc beginning.
Yeah. So I learned how to get a much thicker skin there. The people were really, really tough. I was sent one day to get a Jack in the Box by, you know what a Jack in the Box is?
A little.
And I was asked seriously by like one of the bigger, higher up bosses there. I just started, it's 2 weeks in. He goes, I need a Jack in the Box immediately. I have no idea where to get a Jack in the Box, but he gave me $100 cash and I'm off.
Is that enough to buy a Jack in the Box?
I don't know, but I went everywhere. And I came all the way up from Wall Street to Herald Square, Toys R Us at the time. And sure enough, I found this Jack in the Box. And by the time
How much was it?
It's probably $30.
Did you pocket the difference?
I did not.
But
by the time I thought that I did such a good job, right? Like I'm the king of the New York Stock Exchange. I just found the Jack in the Box and I get down to the thing and he didn't even remember asking for it. Or if he did, he didn't care. The joke was over in his head. He thought it would be back an hour before it, whatever it was. And he took it and he just threw it on the side. And I was just like, that's it. I got the Jack in the Box. It was meaningless. But to me, I was like, I did it, and it was, these little stories, it gives you a thicker skin each time something stupid happens to you. Or asked of, to do something. But it was just like, there's thousands of stories that are out there that are wild, just wild stories. But I was actually supposed to start September 12th of September 11th. And
just after you lost your 40 grand.
Yeah. So I literally just came from these concerts, right? And September 11th happened. It was a Monday. And I'm watching the news and my mom calls me. Somehow she got through because the reception was, nobody was getting through at that point. And I said, I don't know if I have work tomorrow. This is crazy what's going on. I wonder if I'm going to, be working tomorrow. And at the time, I don't know if people recognized it was a terrorist attack. Maybe we did, maybe we didn't. The towers definitely did not fall yet. But
So this is just as it happened.
This is just as it happened. And I'm calling Goldman Sachs office on Wall Street, literally right next to the World Trade Center, off the hook. It's like 9:40 and like they're smoking, you know, nobody's answering. I'm like, shit. Like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be at work tomorrow, but I'm calling from Long Island. Finally, somebody answers the phone. Hello. I'm like, hey, this is Seth Levine. I'm supposed to start tomorrow. Just wondering if there's work because I'm seeing this. And like, they're screaming at me like, bye. And obviously what happened. And there was no work for around a month. I think I started mid-October. But it was a wild start. I mean, it was a pretty hectic start down there.
Yeah, I feel like most people in the Western world remember where they were when that happened.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was probably 10 years old maybe.
You just aged me real quick.
I'm about 10 years younger than you.
Great.
The 80s, right?
Great, yeah.
Yeah, 80. 44.
44.
Okay, 32 in a month. That's okay.
Yeah.
The breathing exercises will help. So yeah, I remember I woke up every morning. I'd wake up and watch cartoons before going to school. And I woke up and every channel had the news. It's like, this is really annoying.
Oh yeah.
I just want to watch cartoons.
Yes, of course. And
I'm on the other side of the world. Had no idea what that meant. But yeah, very just vivid memory of that moment. So you've done a lot, and you are currently in your entrepreneur, hospitality focused era that you've stayed in for what now, 10 years?
Let's see. It's probably closer to 15.
Okay.
14, 15. Yeah, 15, 16 years.
Okay. So what would an elevator pitch be of who you are, what you do, and how you contribute to the world?
Oh boy, the pitch has changed a lot. Prior to having kids, it probably was, I just wanted to have more and more and more. So my pitch would just be, I never stop working. I'm 24 hours a day on the clock and just want more. Open me up more places. I started calming down a lot when the rules of the world started changing, especially in New York, hospitality in New York. The state is very difficult to deal with a lot of licenses and employee rules, and it's a very lawsuit-driven state where every person is protected except for the owner of a business.
Yeah.
And
you know what? On a side note, that is regulation to this degree is where the empires begin to really fall.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Whereas a state like Florida is just like
get it done.
Just protects the owner and the business,
yeah,
and worries about the employee later. But maybe there's a happy hybrid. But the way it's currently done in New York is really a problem. And I was on the show Hell's Kitchen, and getting steak thrown at my face and yelled at. And, I didn't work in a restaurant prior to being on Hell's Kitchen, but, you get yelled and screamed at, even though it's for TV. And
is Gordon Ramsay genuinely a dick, or is he like
absolutely
just,
not.
He's just a dick on TV?
Just on TV. Yeah. And he is an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
And I think to this day, I'm probably one of the only ones that we're actually, friendly.
Yeah.
Or were. I haven't seen or spoken to him in a long time. But after the show, they invited me to come to his book signings and have dinner at the London. And, it was nobody else was getting that for some reason.
Even though he got rid of you on the 5th episode and said you couldn't cook.
Yep.
So how did that shift?
While at the same time, New York is a tough place to do business, it also, and it has to be who I am also, but it also, if you're a hustler and in New York and you have the right connections to the right people, you could use that to your advantage to get places. And after the show, I knew that the 15 minutes of fame was probably 9 for me.
9 and a steak.
I knew I had to hit it hard when the show was coming out.
Yeah.
So I had, I grew up with most of the guys that own nightclubs in the city now and restaurants, and I used all my favors, and I had a big opening party, a premiere party, and I had celebrities there, celebrity friends, and I had sponsors and giveaways and you name it. It was a giant screen, and it was as if I was, this star. And the next day, Fox calls me, or called the publicist of the show, and said, "Oh, we want Seth on Good Day New York to cook." Well, I was the only one that they asked.
Yeah.
And the next day, I used my pull, and I had it on page 6. That I had this premiere party, and the celebrities that were there, and the sponsors' names, and all the other contestants are like,
"What the fuck?
What is going on?" So like they're gravitating towards me, and they know the outcome of the show, and they're just like, "What is this guy getting this for?" But without the connections, that wouldn't have happened. And kind of immediately, even though I didn't do well on the show, that our country is a very forgetful country real quick. And that was forgotten. And then like the opportunities of restaurants just immediately started coming up. And that's when we opened our first one in the Hamptons. But it was, it was something that helped propel me in the culinary world. I wouldn't say it shaped me, but it was definitely like a, hey, there's something here for you. And I ended up hiring a bunch of people from the show to cook for me. And it was just like, how did this guy, how did we get here? And people just gravitate towards people who have connections. And that's one thing that I did do well is I grew up and I made friends and connections and I used them. And honestly, I didn't deserve the notoriety then because the winner did, but it was just overshadowed him completely. And, success came, I would say, out of every season of that show. I'm not trying to pat myself on the shoulder. There's nobody that's more successful than me that came off of that show. It wasn't because of the show, but, chefs have a hard time. A lot of chefs have a hard time. If every chef was successful monetarily and accolade wise, we'd have a lot more better restaurants in the world, right? But, some come and go and start a different career and go down a different path. And, a lot of American Idol stars, right, have a bigger career than the winners. So it's nice to see that out of that show, I'm pretty sure my success level is better than any other.
And you put that down to a good launch party and connections? I think it has a million different pieces to that puzzle. Sure, those are two. And then opening in the Hamptons was another, one right off the bat where it was just, celebrity sells this country, maybe the world, but celebrity in this country is like the end all be all success story, even if it's fake, even if it's gray. If you have celebrities around you, you look successful. And the Hamptons is filled with, then it was filled with celebrities. It's not filled with it now?
No, not as much, not what it was then.
Where are they going now?
I think Europe. Oh. If you look around, it's no longer, at the time it was like, Paris Hilton and the whole Hilton family was out there and Madonna lived out there and Jay-Z lived out there. And, it was like a very, very, very A-list. And those are pop starry A-list, right? But they were there and all the way up to the, the socialite side and the celebrity side, everyone was there. And we opened our doors and it was just everyone. I think the third day Bon Jovi was there eating, and the fourth day the guy from Ghostbusters, Bill, whatever, one of the Ghostbuster guys, he had a tequila that he came out with, or a vodka that he came out with, and he walks into the kitchen with a Gordon Ramsay accent, and this is crazy. These are A-list celebrities. I'm just, what's going on? And my wife now was part of the publicist team that opened that restaurant. And if you have a good publicist and you get your name out there, it's so easy to just get your name out there. If you have celebrities that are coming into your places, and whether the food's good or bad, now you have this draw, right? It's
like the food tastes better if people have 100%. Some notoriety.
100%. 100%.
Get a little halo.
And we had everyone. Yeah. Every celebrity is coming in there now. And it had a nightlife aspect to it as well.
Which was, I think, early, because now the places that are really successful are, you see it in Europe a lot and a lot in New York, and it's those places that have really good food, and then at 11 o'clock at night, it shifts and it becomes a rockin' party.
We were the pioneers in the Hamptons of that.
It's a good concept.
There was nothing else out there.
It's a great concept.
That. And we turned into full nightclub. Bottle service and all that. And it was expensive food.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of money coming in.
Yeah. What was your best day you ever did?
Value-wise, money-wise?
Yeah.
Oof. We probably had like a $200,000 day.
It's not bad for a restaurant. How big?
It was around 400 seats.
It's not that big.
Not that big.
It's good.
But you're talking about when bottle service turns over.
Yeah.
guys are spending 15, 20, 30,000 a table.
Not hard.
It's not hard to get there.
Yeah, sure. You mentioned that connections are really important in the city, right? Especially in New York. So how do you go, this is probably a selfish question, but I just moved to New York 3 months ago. So how would you build connections if you just moved to New York 3 months ago?
I think you're doing a good job.
Oh, thank you.
Look, it depends what you're doing for your career.
Just make a bunch of cash. Just fuck shit up.
You know what? It really depends what you want to do in your career, and then the connections are different for each place. You want to be a doctor, you got to go hang out at a hospital. But in our world, in the hospitality world, you're doing the right thing. I think I did the right thing. It's kind of, making sure that the right people who are decision makers are able to listen to you and you have a voice and be around them. And, when you want something out of it, you ask, it's, being a good person, asking the right questions and doing the right thing where you are, and whatever you're doing as your work, just keep your eyes open and your ears open and be open-minded and just don't stop, just ask your questions and be around the right people and it'll come.
Okay. Interesting. And I wanted to talk about your risk taking, because I think that's a very important thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's consistent between a lot of successful people that they just figure it out and they just hustle and they'll put their balls on the line figuratively and literally, depending if you're a guy or a girl. But also there's a downside to that. You can blow up very quickly. So I'm guessing there's a fine line, and you probably learned a bit about it in finance, but I'd love to understand your thought process around taking risks, but taking them intelligently and limiting the downside.
I grew up in a gambling family.
So no, there's no downside limitation.
Oh, there's downside. There's
no downside limitation. I mean,
right. You have to weigh risks, right? And when you're single and you're not married and you don't have kids and you don't have mouths to feed, my opinion, go for it. What's the worst that can happen? I was very fearful of putting my name on paper at first. And that limited me in the amount of money that you could make. So at first I was guarded for sure. I didn't want my name on a liquor license. I didn't want my name on a contract. I kind of let other people do those things, thinking that I was protecting myself. But at the end of the day, the person whose name is on the paper and the person whose name is on the liquor license, while it holds
risk, it holds upside.
It holds upside.
Sure.
And and I learned that. I borrowed from my dad after finance, just as I was opening Georgica in the Hamptons. When I lived in Italy, I went to culinary school in Italy. And when I lived in Italy, there was a little place called Baby Yogurt. It was a very popular frozen yogurt brand. Tiny hole in the wall. You could barely walk into the store. But it was that natural flavor yogurt that everyone's become accustomed to. And I said, I found this little tiny, I contacted the owner in Italy and he actually, I wanted to open that brand here. And the guy came into New York. I didn't pay for his trip. I just convinced him that I wanted to open in New York. I had no big money to open a big place in New York City, but he didn't know that. And this Italian little man came to New York and we're starting to look around thinking that I was going to finance the whole thing. And he's picking out these massive 5,000 square foot, 4,000 square foot locations in SoHo and all these different places, and $25,000, $30,000 a month in rent. And I'm like, dude, you have any idea? Your concept in Italy is this tiny little store. Like, that's the concept here. He's like, no. We need a flagship here. I'm like, this is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, $25,000 in rent, you have to sell 25,000 yogurts just to cover the rent. Like, this is not it. And he left, and I ended up opening, I borrowed, I think, like 20 or 30,000 from my dad. And I opened this tiny 20 square foot, 30 square foot hole in the wall that looked just like the one in Italy.
Just quickly though, I want to talk to you about a taboo but very important topic: sperm health. I bet you didn't think I was going there. One day I want to have kids, and like any future parent, I want to give them the best shot at a healthy life. But let's face it, we're at a war every day with our health in this modern world. Chemicals, microplastics, and artificial environments are wreaking havoc on our internal systems at every turn. And if you know me, you know I'm obsessed with health, and the health of my swimmers have been on my mind for a number of years. That's why we've partnered with Legacy, who are changing the game in at-home sperm testing and freezing in the US. Did you know that globally, sperm counts have dropped by 50% in the last 40 years? Let that sink in for one moment. This is not just a fertility problem as well, because low sperm quality has been linked to a high risk of testicular cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and even early death. And on top of that, your sperm quality begins to decline around age 30, and by your 40s, the risk of infertility and having a chance of a child with neurological disorder begins to go up. So testing and freezing now may be the best decision I make for my future family, and potentially you too. So Legacy makes it easy. They send a kit straight to your door. You do the business in the comfort of your own home, and in 48 hours, the results are on your phone. Plus, you can freeze your sample at 2 secure locations for peace of mind. So if you're like me and you want to be proactive with your future, as well as support the podcast, head over to givelegacy.com and use the code TOT at checkout for 10% off. That's givelegacy.com using the code TOT for 10% off. Thanks for listening. Now back to the podcast.
And so I found this 20 to 40 square foot hole in the wall.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about the yogurt business. Nothing. Never opened a restaurant in New York City yet.
Yeah.
I'm 27.
Yeah.
Had the restaurant in the Hamptons just opening.
Yeah.
And I decide to borrow money to open this little place. And I with my own hands, I'm very construction knowledge person. Very good with my hands. I don't know. Not proper English. I'm very good at building things. And by myself, I did everything. The decor, you name it, the decor, the build out, everything except putting in the sink myself. I had a plumber come and do that. But like, it looked like shit. It looked okay. Like the signage, everything about it was just like shafty, And I worked with this creamery to come up with our own flavored plain. And you couldn't even walk into the place. It was just, you walk up to the door and you order, right? But it was in the center of SoHo. And I was stuck in between Armani and this high-end jewelry place. But it was when SoHo, West Broadway was like bustling. And with a $2,500 rent, it gave me the same visibility as these stores that were $150,000 a month in rent. And they're selling Andy Warhol paintings across the street from me, and I'm selling $6 yogurt, and within 3 days there was just a line down the street of there was nothing else around, and Pinkberry didn't exist. It was the first natural flavored yogurt place to really exist, except for Bloomingdale's 40 carats, which, you had to be in Bloomingdale's. You weren't going to just go there for it.
Did you do any publicity, or you just open the doors?
So with my contacts, I did some publicity, but you really needed celebrity. And my sister is very close to Sophia Bush, actress. And she was in New York, and within like a few days of opening, my sister was just like, let's just go to my brother's yogurt place, and, you know, took the right pictures and, you know, just organically in Us Weekly and, you know, a few other of the glossy magazines.
So run me through that. So that day she comes, you knew she was coming. You had a photographer there, or you just took a photo on your iPhone 2 at the time?
I'm pretty sure I called a proper photographer to take that photo.
So you knew what was up.
Yeah.
And did she know what was up? Did she know that you were going to get like a photographer to come and take a look?
I'm not sure.
And
maybe.
And then you sent it to, you had a publicist, or you did it?
At the time, I just had magazine contacts. You know,
so you just said, "Hey,
for the
look
most
at this."
part, Us Weekly, all the glossy magazines have young girls my age working there at the time, and you know, I was friends with them.
Yeah.
So I was just like, "Hey, you know, put this in there." And a week later, Adam Levine was just walking down the street and stopped in.
That would have been when he was like at his peak too.
Huge. So he already had paparazzi following him. But oddly, I went to camp with him. Very oddly. And
that's so random.
It was random. So it was like he was there for an extra minute because we had a brief discussion. An odd discussion.
What was the discussion?
It was just, hey, we went to camp together when we were kids.
Did he remember you?
Yeah.
He remembered you?
Yeah. He was more friends with my sister, but yeah, he did.
Okay.
Same name. We have the same birthday. So it was always like, that's how it was remembered. But
So your sister's the engine room of all the connects here.
she has great connections for sure. For sure she does. And he was photographed with logo out. And then I believe it was Elle Macpherson was like 3 days after that. And then it was the cast of Sex and the City was filming. It's SoHo, you know, it's filled. Scott Disick was there like 2 days after that. And it was like within 10 days, it was like 15 celebrities were there.
Yeah.
And that was it, you know, and then it kind of just organically happened. Guys, I don't have COVID. The air conditioning in this room, I think, is freezing my throat. And the place, I was able to give my dad back the money within like 3 weeks. And I had it for like 4 or 5 years. And all of a sudden, this lady oddly walked up and she was like, you know, I love the branding. I think I Googled like logo maker and like had a logo like designed by like somebody in Pakistan, and they send it back and I was like, this is great. And it was like a little man in like a yogurt cup, and this Turkish lady walked up and she's like, I love the branding of this place. Like I you know, I'm not from here. I want to open one of these up in Turkey. I want this one, and you know, how could I get a part of this? And I ended up selling her the company. I opened up 2 others, so there was 3. And I ended up selling her the company and closing 2 out of the 3 locations and giving her the brand 3 or 4 years later for a decent amount of money.
What was the number?
It was a little under $1 million. And
that's great.
You know, we were doing, you know, a few $100,000 in profit.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like a 3x kind of
multiple in profit.
That you know, and she ran it into the ground within like 6 months, and now it's like I think they sell like hand lotion or something out of this little store. But it was.
She still owns the store?
No, she was gone within months.
That's
or
Crazy.
Years, or maybe a year. I forget what it was.
What was the problem? Why did she mess it up so badly?
You know what? It was such a small place that in the wintertime, if you're not careful of how you're taking care of it and managing the store, I turned it into a soup store.
Oh, interesting.
In the winter, and she didn't. And again, I think you just have to manage your finances, you know, and maybe it just became unworth it for her. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, you know, it was, I took a risk, you know, and I did. So going back to the risk taking, right? So, and New York City being who they are with licensing and being a disaster. there was a bathroom. Obviously, this place is tiny. There was a bathroom in the basement of the place. So you would have to open up those hatch doors, go down to the bathroom. Anyway, I put in all this money and you need a Board of Health license to open. And I go to the Department of Health and I'm figuring this out all for my first time by myself. And sure enough, I make an appointment. The Department of Health shows up. I'm spick and span. And they go, you can't open. And I said, what do you mean you can't open? He goes, well, you don't have a bathroom here. I said, no, I have a bathroom in the basement. How do you get there? I said, well, I close the store and I go down. If I have 2 employees, one of them goes downstairs and then comes back up. Like, I don't understand. Like, well, Board of Health rules state that you have to have a bathroom inside your venue for employee use. I said, well, nobody told me that. And I took a course on the Department of, and they don't tell you this. And I'm like, where is this in the right? Like, where do you have this? And they wouldn't give me a license. And I had to go to the Department of Health, like the head person, who was a scary person to deal with.
How did you get in contact with the head person department?
Just keep trying. I just literally went there every day. And like, I'm laying on the floor of this yogurt store crying that I just did all this work. I can't open. And finally I get the head of the Department of Health there. She's like, you need to cut a hole in the floor, put a ladder inside your store. It's literally the size of the store is here. So where the employees stood to do the yogurt, I had to cut a hole in the floor. I put a straight down ladder in, and that's the way they were mandated to use the bathroom.
Why was that any better than the trapdoor?
Ready? So they think that if you have to leave the store, and I said they can close the store if they want to, if they have to use the bathroom. If I only have 1 employee, they can close the store. The Department of Health told me that people would rather pee in the sink than close the store. So I said, so let me get this straight. My store is open. Everyone can see. The sink is right there. You think that somebody, girl or guy, girl's going to jump up and squat on the sink and the guy is just going to turn around and pee in the sink and not go to the bathroom in the basement? That's the thought process of me closing down. So that is why New York is suffering. Is these rules that they come up with are insane. And obviously nobody ever peed in the sink, and nobody ever used that ladder. Nobody ever used that ladder either.
Really?
Of course, they just closed this door and they went down the stairs, but in order to get it done, it cost me an extra 10 grand to get a contractor in to
you telling me you couldn't cut your hole yourself?
I couldn't cut the hole myself. I'm going through a ceiling here. It's like, guys, you know how dangerous it is to open a hatch, climb down a straight down ladder, and then use the bathroom, and then climb back up the straight ladder, climb into the floor, and then close the hatch, and then work on top of the hatch. You think that's better than closing the store and just going down the stairs to the bathroom? Okay, I did it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I read somewhere that the government is the largest employer in America right now.
Oh, sure.
And that says to me waste. Because I've been to plenty of government places and they're not efficient.
Yeah.
At all. So it's like jobs for the sake of jobs, carried on the back of the people who have good ideas.
Absolutely.
And costing everyone in the grand scheme of things.
For sure.
It's crazy. Yeah. I don't know how to fix that, but it's just an observation.
I think New York, unfortunately, again, depending on politically what happens, is facing a really, really big problem. I call it rubbernecking. People are watching the accident happen, or the accident has already happened, and now people are just sticking around watching, and they don't know how bad the accident is yet. And New York is in a lot of trouble. They're not taking care of the people who are taking care of their taxes.
Yeah.
And ultimately, they're letting things happen that are going to ruin this state. It's already happening or happened. And now people are just watching. And if they're not careful and make dramatic changes, hospitality in New York, everyone likes to go out and eat, but, if you speak to most hospitality restaurant owners, nightclub owners, some of the big boys are doing just fine.
But the big boys always do just fine.
The big boys are always doing just fine. And you know what? They have giant money in back of them.
Yeah. I think the value of a good market is how robust the middle market is.
Agreed. Absolutely. Absolutely. And people are getting crushed right now.
Yeah.
And sales are down dramatically across the board. Even the big guys are seeing it. But again, they have funds in back of them. They have billionaires in back of them. And they're also opening, if you look at some of the biggest hospitality companies in the world right now, look at how many of them are opening in New York, a new venue.
I'm guessing none.
None.
Yeah.
They're opening in
Miami,
Austin, Texas, Dallas,
Yep.
Anywhere but California and New York. And isn't anybody wondering why? It's they'll keep what they have as long as it works. But people are closing. There's a lot of places that are just closing down and saying, screw it. I just don't need it. And, when you can get sued for anything and it's an automatic loss for the business. The lawyer calls you, you get served. Sometimes you have insurance for certain things. Sometimes insurance doesn't cover it. But you got a call from a lawyer, you're trained. My stomach is now trained to just say, how much does it cost to settle it now? Even if I know that it's a bullshit, fraudulent claim, just what does it cost to settle it now?
That's crazy.
Because ultimately I have to pay the lawyer to defend me. And
what if you don't use a lawyer?
You lose.
Really?
It's automatic.
Why?
So New York and the country, to respond to a lawsuit, obviously we're getting into a very legal side of things now, but to respond to a lawsuit is very tricky. And when you get served, because I've had default judgments against me before.
Default judgment?
Meaning I didn't respond properly. If you don't respond properly, and when I tell you that every I and T has to be crossed and dotted to respond to a lawsuit, you can get what's called a default judgment that is ruled against you, which means you lose. And without having that knowledge, extreme legal knowledge, you can't defend yourself. Criminally, if you want to defend yourself, sure. You can go in front of a court and tell your story and they'll make a decision. But when it comes to monetarily defending yourself against claims, civil suits, you have no shot.
Wow. Is that set up just to pay the lawyers?
Absolutely.
Is there some weird
So there's so many aspects to this side of things, and I can go on forever, but there are what's called professional plaintiffs in New York. And there are lawyers that hold dinners in low-income areas, and they put out flyers, and they say, who wants a free dinner? And they have 150 people show up in low-income areas, and they say, your employer has done something wrong to you. We're short of it. Bring your pay stubs, tell us your story, and we'll find a loophole in order to sue your employer. And you'll get paid and we'll get paid. And I've probably had maybe 10 or 12 of these where longtime employees that I have taken care of their families, employees that I paid for one's sister's surgery back at their home country. people that are almost considered family, people that were, dishwashers that became chefs, and I taught them a trait, have sued me because of a loophole that New York changes their labor laws all the time. To keep up with it, you have to be a scientist, doctor, physicist, mentalist, whatever, and you can't keep up with it. And there's always going to be something that you're doing wrong that you don't even know about. And when I say wrong, it's literally like not even really wrong. It's just like a different rule that changed. And the penalties of labor lawsuits are massive, and they usually stem not only to the one person that sued you, but your whole company, because you were probably doing that one little tiny thing differently that you weren't supposed to do. Now it's across the board, so that it becomes a class action if they want it to be. So they kind of come to you and they say, this person is suing you. You want to settle now. It's this giant number. If you don't want to settle now, we're going to ask every other employee if they want to hop on board. And that's probably happened to almost every restaurateur, every hospitality group, every nightclub owner, several times in New York. And you lose a ton of money every time. You're either going to pay your lawyer to defend you, which you got to pay your lawyer, or you're going to pay this plaintiff. And the longer it takes you to make that decision, the more money it is, because the other attorney is working as well. So the settlement amount increases more and more and more as their bill gets higher and higher and higher. So while that first plaintiff may only get 20%, the whole law firm is eating off of the length of time it takes, and a $50,000 settlement day one in month 3 is probably $250,000. So if you go to court, you may or may not lose that plus the attorney fees plus your attorney fees. So you settle, and they come to you and they say, I might be giving away secrets here, and don't sue me, but you almost have to just start the conversation with your attorney and just say, what does it cost to end it now? You may get out of it for 10 or 20 grand versus a possible loss of 10x that.
Do they assume that you're insured though? Is that the assumption they make?
Labor is never insured.
Oh.
Civil things are insured. So EPLI insurance is, sexual harassment, racist, sexist, those type of claims are insured. Slip and falls are insured. But when it comes to labor lawsuits, you're not insured, because then everybody wouldn't pay properly, or at least they think that people wouldn't pay you properly if you were able to get insurance on, hey, can I keep this tip money and I don't have to distribute it? There are probably owners that would do that. I don't know many of them. I think that it's a pretty well-balanced community that we have, but labor is never insured.
Well, I've got a couple of friends that are they're lawyers in the no win, no fee game.
Right. Uh-huh.
I'm like, they're fucking crazy. The one of them told me, he was like, I spend my day calling insurance companies and saying, hello again.
Yep.
What are we doing today?
Yep.
And that's it. That's the whole business.
It's
crazy. And this is not a thing that happens in Australia at all. This is
not
an
a thing that
American
happens
thing.
anywhere except for the United States. We had a restaurant in London for a while, and it was just like, we took the same methodology that we have in the United States there, and it was overkill. It was like, our carefulness there was not needed, and it costs a lot of money to be careful.
Yeah.
And it's, people are just like, wait, what? Even slip and falls, like nobody sues you for a slip and fall there. Whereas here it's like, slipped and fell, dealing with one right now, two right now. I was on the phone with the lawyer this morning.
Yeah.
They need to come see the staircase. They have experts that come and see the staircase. This is like the 8th expert that came and saw the staircase. It's like,
fuck,
guys,
was it always like this? Has this been litigious since day one?
No,
So what changed
in the past decade and a half? It's really become a much bigger problem. I think I think COVID was probably the largest catalyst of the change. So you're not even talking about that long ago. Because before COVID, the world was still a little crazy, but then COVID for New York really just changed a lot.
You lock people in their apartments for months on end, it's going to turn you loopy. And
it politically, I think it changed a lot as well. The mandates that we had versus a lot of other places, it gave people this weird power that over people, like, you can't do this, you can't do that, you have to be vaccinated, you can't go to work if you're not vaccinated. It started this whole thing that never was before. And I think that changed New York dramatically.
I mean, I'm new to the city, so I'm like, I don't know what it was like. I don't know how amazing it was previously.
I think it really stems from the governors and the mayors, and prior to the past two administrations, I think that we had a very business focused. Mayor Bloomberg, multi-billionaire. Guy knows how to run a business, and I think that he ran New York as a business, and I think that we were at our peak then, and I think after him has become a downfall.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, this pendulum swinging from the business to the populace, and I think it goes back and forth. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm naively bullish on New York just because whenever I've heard of places that everyone's shitting on, it's when you buy.
Listen, like the bell bottom comment, right? Everything is reciprocal. It'll come around again. There's probably a lot of opportunity here right now, but things are still expensive.
It needs to come down.
I think it needs to. I think we're going to see the Batman Bane. I think Bane's going to come take over the city for a while and put it in a very, very dark place.
Yeah.
For a while.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see a lot of closures. I think you're going to see a lot of pain and suffering in New York, business-wise, for a long time. And eventually it will reset.
Yeah. I mean, geographically, it's a pretty amazing state.
Yeah, look, I lived in Manhattan. I had my first child in Manhattan. But when you don't feel comfortable having your wife walk your child in a stroller or stroll your child around the streets of 59th and Park Avenue, there's a problem.
Yeah.
And that was our time that we ran out of the city.
Yeah.
And the riots were happening, and it's just became this unsafe place no matter where you were. It didn't matter if it was the prestigious Upper East Side or Times Square. It was the same. Whereas like crime used to not really happen as much in these nicer parts of Manhattan. It was kind of like you're worse off. And we ran back to Long Island where we were from. And it's a great place to have your kid grow up and kind of not see
chaos.
Yeah.
Sure. I understand. So what do you think the solutions are? From, you've been in this city for a very long time. You've seen a lot.
I think, unfortunately, we have to see some dark times.
Yeah.
The reset has to happen because it's not going to happen without it. I think we have to see what happens with this election. But I think New York needs to really take a good hard look at itself and be realistic and also tell the truth. You have governors and mayors that just, I don't think they see what the public sees or what most business people are dealing with. They don't see it. And
Do you think it's ignorance or malevolence?
I think people just tell them what they want to hear. And they don't, I just don't know how they don't look at the stats of crime and the migrant situation and the, you know, the way that people, I think what the bulk of the sentiment is, I don't think they hear it. You know, I think they're at this place.
In a little echo chamber.
They're in their own little world. And, you know, the mayor is taken from one location to another with a police motorcade and, you know, security around him. And he doesn't see it. He may hear about it, but you got to just open your eyes a little bit more and see that this city is in a really bad place.
This gets me thinking about, what's his name? The founder of Amazon, Jeff Bezos's approach. I read his shareholder letters a couple of times now, and he speaks about looking at the data versus the anecdotes, and he will have his team talk to him about like, oh, look how, you know, call times are down to 5 minutes. And then he talks about, like, say in a meeting that happened, but then his auntie tried to call and was on hold for 20 minutes. And he said the lesson was that he would just pick up the phone and call in the meeting and then see what it actually is.
Right.
You know, and lo and behold, it was 20 minutes. So the lesson that he took and that he was portraying in this shareholder letter was that when you hear the anecdotes versus the data, listen to the anecdotes because they're usually more correct than this like swath of data.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
And maybe check these anecdotes yourself, but use them as a really big alarm bell as to what is possibly actually happening on the ground to make better decisions.
Absolutely.
So I really think it's a really powerful way of viewing this, and it could be applied to running a city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Same concept.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Maybe we need Jeff to.
I mean, clearly he's pretty good at what he does.
He's just living the dream now, just on yachts and vibing, retired.
Wild.
Good on him.
The photo of him, you know, at the original Amazon with the, you know, geeky little guy, and now he's like ripped.
Bald guy.
Wild. What a transformation.
Brilliant. I mean, it's the arc. Yeah, see where it goes. Maybe there can be you soon.
Hey, I'm all for it.
He's like in his 50s or 60s, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's pretty old. Doesn't look it. Yeah. Look, I want to come back up a little bit, and I'm conscious of time, but and get back to the being a chef. If you were an aspiring chef and you were starting your career today, what would you do to propel your career as quickly as possible?
The chef world has transformed a lot. It used to be, you know, you really had to work to get to where to own a restaurant. You know, you really had to put in your time. And to get any type of accolades, and there was not a lot of money being a chef for a very long time. It was a job that most people almost looked down upon, and I think it's changed a lot from when I started to where it is now, where now it's not just, you know, Hell's Kitchen, but it's, you know, Top Chef, and it's all these other outlets.
TikTok as well.
You know, I mean, the social media aspect of it is insanity. Crazy. And, you know, there are people who are everything from critical to, you know, coming up with wild little things that, like you said, on TikTok. And people have so many more opportunities now than they ever did before. But I do think, to answer your question, I think having a proper social media outlet and getting out there on social media and creating things that are different and fun. You know, my whole thing was I didn't want to just make good food. I wanted it to look the presentation of it was like my whole thing. And it was like,
It tastes better if it looks better. That's also
Absolutely.
a scientifically proven thing.
100%. And I never was the chef that was like, I need a Michelin star. I was never the guy that needed the James Beard Awards. I was always the, how much money can I make doing this?
There's more money in it without a Michelin star?
I think so. There's a great debate with that, right? And to get a Michelin star is super hard, right? And then you have to maintain it.
I've heard some crazy stories.
If you lose it, you're done.
You're done, yeah. For people like killing themselves, like from the pressure. It's,
So why stress?
Crazy shit.
You know, to me, it's like, I love good food, you know, and I that was always my thing. It's like, I'm not going for these awards. And I remember I had taken over Gurney's in Montauk and we were redoing it and we were getting all the papers to come there and critics would come there and, you know, it had me shaking. And now looking back on it, it was like, I'd almost tell them like, I don't want you here. You know, like I don't need it. What I do is very different than what you're used to. And it's, yes, great food. You know, like that's number one. You have to have great food. You have to have great service. But like, I don't need the accolades to be successful. You know, the restaurant's P&L is going to tell me if I'm successful or not you. And, you know, we got great reviews, but like it never hurt me when I didn't get one. You know, like people weren't reading. My customers were not reading their review. So it didn't do anything for me. But I was always like that. Let me plate it as funky and fun. You know, it's almost like, can I be Willy Wonka-ish with my food and have it, you know, in a different form and deconstruct it and have them reconstruct it and have fun with it. That was always my thing. It's just have fun with the food and like really have a different take on a lot of it. And it always did me well. You know, it was always something that, and I geared it towards social media before TikTok, before Instagram, really. You know, when people were just starting to take pictures of their food, that was the most important thing to me was, did you take a photo of the dish when it came out?
Yeah.
And
was it a moment?
And that helped a lot. You know, it was, you know, I used to serve a stuffed French toast. It was a s'mores stuffed French toast.
I saw this.
And sure enough, Puff Daddy came at me and, you know, desperate for it. I was in the Hamptons and he said, I'm on a yacht and I need that. And within 3 hours, I was on Diddy's yacht making him stuffed French toast. And I don't even know how it happened. You know, like, how did that happen? You know, but it was like the way it looked and the way it, you know, I had a friend who was working for him and in their social media and they posted the stuffed French toast through Sean John, his clothing line. And within 3 hours, he was like, where did that come from? Who was the guy who made it? And I see he's in the Hamptons. He was frequent in the Hamptons and he was on a yacht. It was in Sag Harbor. He's like, I need this guy here now. And I was making him French toast 3 hours after it was posted, you know, but that's the power of social media.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so that was always my thing is it picturesque? But yeah, I mean, now, you know, I think TikTok rules, you know, some stuff is stupid and gross and some stuff is, you know, I learned from.
Yeah.
But you know, it's definitely a powerful tool. Should we do some TikTok stuff right now?
Sure. Show me.
So
what do we got?
I brought a couple of things to do that. Let's see. Well, first of all, my opinion is caviar always makes everything better. So that's a motto of mine.
Yeah.
But look, like here, I brought a blowtorch. So blowtorch.
I've never used a blowtorch. What do I do?
Oh God. Well, I want you to keep your eyebrows. Nope. Here.
Let me. Do I turn it?
Turn it.
Which way? Right?
Left.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
And then press the button while it's open. Again. There you go.
I've never done that before.
There you go. Okay.
Like a child.
Well, that's dessert.
What do we got?
So this is that's dessert. We'll save that for right
Okay.
after, but let's see how adventurous you are.
I'm adventurous. Let's do it.
Don't say that yet.
Yeah, you get like. I've eaten some pretty wild shit in my time.
We could start with this.
Sure.
Yeah, white truffle, potato chips.
Okay, so we got chips.
So everything is better with caviar, right?
Even the s'mores.
Of course.
Really?
Of course.
All right.
That's for you.
Thank you. I don't think I've ever eaten caviar in my life.
Never.
Never.
Okay. Oh, my chip's a little bigger than yours, so here let's.
It's not the size of the chip, it's how you use it.
Very good. Truffle.
There's a lot going through.
$100 bite of caviar.
Wait, really?
Of course.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's the best there is.
Wow. It tastes like the ocean. What are you looking for with good caviar? Run me through.
A little peach juice. I believe that's peach juice, maybe Japanese peach juice.
Where'd you find all this shit? How do we
I
get
was in
here?
a Japanese market
This morning.
yesterday,
You're like,
and I said, you know what?
for this specifically, or just for something to do?
In general. I go
Wait,
there often.
so how much is this thing?
400.
Oh my God. It's my rent for the week. No, it's actually a little bit more, but. Oh, is this wagyu?
It sure is.
I've got a story about wagyu. When I moved to New York, I stayed in my friend and editor for the podcast house for a month. So I came here for 3 days. It was supposed to be the holiday, and ended up knowing him from Australia. He lets me sleep on his couch. I realized how crazy expensive the city is, and I said, you know what? If I'm sleeping on your couch, I'll take us out to dinner. So I took us to Catch, and I'm like, we're getting the wagyu, we're doing this, and end up dropping like $700 or something on dinner, and that's the last time I've eaten wagyu since.
Yeah, that's definitely something that's pricey.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Not bad, right? White truffle chips. So I don't know the people here in the venue that we're at. But I'm gonna sear a little wagyu on their table.
Oh God.
I think it should be all right?
Yeah.
And then we'll top it with a little caviar for the salt.
Okay.
Right? Hopefully it doesn't smoke too much.
The smoke.
This is definitely not happened in a podcast, probably, right?
And just make sure I clean the table afterwards.
That's why I cleaned it. I cleaned it first.
That makes
I was more concerned with what we were. Okay, there we go. Nice and rare. We're gonna add a little caviar to it.
Okay. Hot. Cheers. Cheers.
Chewier. Needed another minute.
I love steak.
Right?
I love steak.
Right?
Oh.
And the
Yum.
equal version of it, Toro. Are you a tuna fan?
Yeah, I love food.
See, we're just making sure that caviar makes everything better.
Nice. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yum.
Palate cleanser.
Yep.
Now this is whole pickled ginger.
Oh my God. I've never seen this before. It's a whole ginger.
It's a whole ginger.
I love that.
Amazing.
And it's not that crazy, like
No.
intense either.
Ginger loses its intensity when you pickle it. Right?
I've never had this before. Do you think it's just as good for you, or
It definitely has great elements. I'm sure you take some of it out when you're pickling it like that. But yeah, I mean, I could eat a bowl of it.
that was so good?
Right? And then this is amabi, which is raw shrimp.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're up for a little raw shrimp,
Yeah, man. Oh, what do we got here?
we've got a little yuzu.
Are we putting caviar on this one too? Okay. Does the Pope shit in the woods?
No, of course.
All right.
Go for it. Yep.
Nice.
You got little tails, so just pull the tails off.
I ate the tails.
Okay.
I don't care. They got collagen in them.
Mm-hmm.
Yum.
That's good stuff.
Oh.
That is good stuff.
Maybe I'll start a new career as a cooking show host.
But you see, the minimalist, as long as you have
that
good
was really good.
ingredients, you don't have to do anything to it.
Yeah.
So that was always another thing of mine is use great ingredients and don't change it so much. Just add to it to make it a really good dish. And, we added no salt to anything. We used the caviar as the salt. So that was always my thing. Just, minimalize if you're going to use good ingredients, you don't have to do much to it.
And then what do we got here?
A little peach juice. So the one thing that Japanese do real well is their ingredients taste like what they're supposed to taste like. Peach juice.
It's just peach.
Just peach.
Nice. Well, we'll keep snacking, and we can continue.
Right?
Well, I had a question here for you that said, what's one ingredient that you believe is completely underrated, and how do you like to use it? Would you say
Caviar?
Caviar. We've answered that question now.
Absolutely.
And when you ask how you want to use it, it's on everything.
You know what? It's becoming a lot more affordable.
Really?
And that is due to China.
Yeah.
I think what most people who don't know where caviar comes from, obviously they know it's fish eggs, but China has become the capital of the caviar world. And part of that is China just has learned how to do everything easier, better, cheaper. And the other part of that is we have embargoes with almost every other place that has a mass amount of caviar. So Russia, we don't import from. And Iran, which is the other caviar capital, again, we don't import from. So somebody had to take over being the capital of caviar, and China did it.
And we don't do caviar here?
We do certain caviar here. It's American raised, and it's not ideal. It's like your McDonald's of, it's not this.
Yeah.
It's farm raised.
Oh, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought about doing like a cooking line?
I think I've thought of everything in the cooking world. The problem with it is you really need, without a major corporate backing, I kind of stopped trying a little bit in the past few years to do more and kind of just perfect what I have now, because it without expanding comes with negative territory as well,
And time.
yeah,
Loss
And
of time with family.
and then having a new family to me is the most important. So kind of being happy of where I am right now, and letting some time go by, perfecting what I have now, and then probably reevaluating it when I can in the near future, not too long.
Once
but
the kids are a bit older and
yeah, a little bit. You know, this is to me time that you can never get back.
yeah.
And you know, you have a very short window with children to be children. And I didn't know, going back to my earlier comments about my, you know, having kids, I didn't know how intensely in love and how incredible kids and having a great wife and a great family. And I didn't, I have little spoons actually. And it becomes a lot more important than success, than monetary success, and being able to have both. Being able to have monetary success and a family is the dream, you know, and you know, right now it's working, and I kind of just want to.
The balance is there.
Balance is there right now.
That's important.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you want to start off early on in your career and just hustle, move. Yep. But there is a point at some time where you go, you know what? Why am I doing this? 100%. Is the mission to just do more worth the new mission that comes through, which is to just like have a good life and raise a good family and
absolutely
and build on to the next generation.
Absolutely. You want to see how the Levines eat caviar?
Show me.
So we like to have caviar with our chip. It's like that's a nice
That's
heaping.
$180 right there. So what I want to get into some general, just like considerations about philosophy and life. So what views do you have that would make other people either scratch their head or potentially get angry right now?
I mean, I've always been the guy that dives in and then figures it out after. And I probably do that too much to the point where, you know, the risk is sometimes not worth it. But yeah, I mean, look, if you have a family, don't do that. Well, look, I mean, sometimes it pays off, you know, and I'm a risk taker. You know, it's just always been me. Like we were just saying, I slowed that down, but you got to really put yourself on the line.
Taking big risks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you take bigger risks than most people?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You know, I have a business we could talk about downtown and Lower East Side. It thrived for a very, 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 very long time. The opportunity came to buy the building because the owner of the building was selling, and our lease was running out. And it was either put your name on a piece of paper, $10 million piece of paper, and take a risk, or close. And the money, you know, year over year proved the model to take that risk. And so, you know, I dove in and bought a building on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and, you know, still figuring out if it's going to work out. But I think, you know, the amount of time and headache that it took to get through that process, I think most people would have gave up. I almost gave up 10 times. I think I've also almost lost all my money several times before I learned how to, you know, figure that out as well. And again, that went back to, you know, making sure your finances are in order. But I think most successful people need to go through those things and you know, get to a place where they don't think their life's going to work out in order to get to the next higher level. if success didn't have ups and downs, it wouldn't be success. It would just be given to people, and it's something that you have to work for and keep. Getting it one time is hard. Maintaining it is harder, and then going to the next level above that is even harder. They always say like your first $1 million is the hardest $1 million you're going to make in your life. For people to get there is nearly impossible. And then the second $1 million is hard, but it's not as hard. And then going from 2 to 20 is super easy. And some of that is true. I don't fully know yet, right? But the theory is correct, and it's very hard to become successful. It's super hard to maintain the success, and going to the next level of that is also a feat. And I think that's where I'm at kind of now, and we're figuring it out.
For sure. We're always figuring it out.
Yeah.
Like I'm figuring this out as we go, day by day, learning something new. But it's part of the fun.
Right?
It's part of the game. I mean, life is definitely not boring.
Correct.
God, no. God, no. So what's the kindest thing anyone's ever done for you? Can't say your parents.
I can't say my
No,
parents.
it's cheating.
I'm like a mushy romantic. Like, I think my wife giving birth to our kids.
You're like, thanks.
We'll never know, right? We'll never know what that's like.
Yeah.
It's an insane process. It's an insane thing to think that, my kids were in my wife's stomach, and it's, their fingerprints and their lungs and their heart and their brain are growing in there, and then one day they just come out and they're people. There's nothing more successful than that.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Insanity.
So when you stop and think about
I remember
it.
thanking my wife in the OR because she had C-sections.
Yeah.
When the babies came each time. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
There's no bigger thanks than that. I've had several people along the way of helping, teaching, learning, mentors, but nobody gave me anything except for my wife.
Okay.
And my parents, but you wouldn't let me.
No,
thank
no
them.
parents. But you can still thank your parents.
Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah. If you could only recommend one, I mean, I know you said you don't read too much, but one book, a podcast, or experience for somebody to read.
This podcast.
This podcast.
This one.
All right, let's go. To do for their whole lifetime that would have the most meaningful impact on them, what would it be?
It's got to be a book, a podcast.
Could be an experience. It could be something that has fundamentally shifted the way
somewhere
you view
where they don't speak your language.
American. That's me right now.
We speak your language. Travel.
Yeah.
The honestly, what really, I lived in Italy. I lived in London. I lived in California. I lived in New York. I lived in Florida. United States, different places are going to give you different experiences, but I think that Americans need to, I guess, look, I'm American, so I don't know the answer to this, but living in Italy shaped me who I am, being well-traveled, being well-versed, trying new things, your day-to-day experiences in another country and getting around other places and seeing the sights of, a lot older cultures than us here, to me really changed who I am. You're able to, I think traveling, you're able to hold conversations that, about places and just learning other cultures and other food and other people. And it was a huge catalyst for me. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't think it's the television world, the podcast world, the
It's experiences.
It's experiences.
Understanding the world.
And the saddest part about social media is, and I'm to blame, I'm on it all the time. I mean, I literally am. My wife is just like looking over. I'm on TikTok, like every night, just like going through videos. And like, I think that people are giving up that traveling and doing other things. I think because they feel like they're a part of, they're able to see, everything online and, almost, instead of going to the restaurant, they see all the dishes at the restaurant before on TikTok. And so maybe you don't get to them, but at least you know about them now. And I think it's slowing people down from actually experiencing them by watching other people's experiences. And it's nice because some people can't afford it. So, they get to see it. But I think the negative aspect of it holds true also, that people are just, instead of being inspired
to get it done,
they're just watching it.
Yeah.
They're watching other people and being a part of it that way instead of actually getting it done and going themselves.
Well, I recently did a podcast with a travel vlogger called Jordan Ramsay, and he's got like 6 million followers across all of his channels. And he said that exact thing. He's like, not on the people not traveling, but he'll get comments from people saying, thank you for X because I could never do that.
Sure.
But maybe they could.
Sure.
If they didn't have that.
And look, now with like all this AI and robotic, and put the goggles on and you feel like you're there. And I think it's going to become more and more and more, or less and less and less real.
Yeah. Well, on that note, what if you could know the absolute truth to a question, what would it be?
Wow. You asked some pretty hard questions. I don't know if I can answer that one.
Think about it. Come back to me.
I'm going to come back to you.
Come back to me on Sunday when I see you.
I'm going to come back to you on that one.
Okay.
That's almost like what's the meaning of life question.
Well, that is my next question. What is the meaning of life?
Yeah. I mean, God, I didn't know I was such a family, again, I think that your experiences until you become a father are shape who you are. And if you don't have kids, you just don't know. But I think having children is the root of all happiness. I don't care if you're monetarily successful, if you're not, if you live on paycheck to paycheck. I think that every single person who's able to have a child is able to be happy. And I think that that's what they provide you. It doesn't matter what you have. If you have the love of your family and your children, there's no bigger success than that. And there's not a dollar amount. There's not a experience. There's not a place to go that you can get that euphoric feeling of a child. So that is what
your meaning.
That is my, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just keep representing, Elon Musk, who, is an up and down person to me. I think he's a nutcase.
He's a complete nutcase.
Brilliant. And
yeah, they have to be.
I mean, there's nobody like him. Right. And he's on his 10th or 11th child with multiple different people. And his whole thing is just, this is our purpose. This is, we need to keep reproducing and recreating. And, I appreciate his outlook on kids like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely moving in that direction as well.
Yeah.
Like to have 4 kids. Just got to find the wife and get the green card.
Yeah. That'll come.
We'll get there. Maybe from Summer Club.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe not.
There's plenty of prospects.
Seth, so what are you excited about at the moment that you'd like to let the listeners in on?
Well, I am excited of what is happening at Summer Club. I think that we're on to something really cool there. It's transformed and it keeps growing and growing and growing into a place that is exciting to own. It's a
thrill, isn't it?
It's a thrill.
Yeah.
It's
running parties and clubs and
yeah. You know, it's
different game to the restaurants.
It's a very different game. You know, most restaurants of mine that I've had always have had a nightlife aspect to it. This is obviously day life, which is just as fun.
Yeah. That's a good name for a party.
Day life. Not bad.
I'd steal that. We'll do it.
I'll be coming for my royalties.
We'll do it at the venue.
There we go. But it's, you know, it's definitely an exciting thing to see the caliber of talent that is rising all the time, and the caliber of people that are coming through. And we're getting people like you who, you know, traveled from Australia to be a part of it. And, you know, it's nice to see that people are appreciating the hard work that's being put into it. And, you know, we're getting better and better every week and every season for sure. And, yeah, that's what I'm excited about.
Nice. And where can people find you if they're looking?
Instagram is chefsethlevine.com. No. You see, that's my age.
Yeah.
You see, that's my age that just came out.
Chef Seth Levine.
Seth Levine is my handle.
It's a bit of a tongue twister.
And yeah, I mean,
cool.
I don't really post TikToks, but
yes, I mean, maybe we've got something.
Maybe we got something here. You want dessert, by the way?
Yeah, we'll do that for sure. So, well, look, we'll finish this up, and I just want to say thank you again. Appreciate you coming on.
Adam, thank you. This has been a lot of fun.
I'm glad.
Here, we'll start you off with one. So this is freeze-dried ice cream.
All right. Well, anyone that's made it this far, if you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, give the podcast a rating, let us know in the Q&A what your thoughts were, or the comments on YouTube. We'd love to hear from you. Till next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy, guys. I got to open this up now.